Dominic Wells stood outside the glass doors of the most expensive car dealership he had ever seen, staring at his reflection for a moment. Worn leather shoes, polished as much as they could be, a pale blue shirt slightly faded at the collar, and a tie chosen by his 6-year-old daughter, while in his pocket was a resume carrying 12 years of engineering excellence. But today, none of that mattered, because parked at the far end of the lot, inside an old Honda, was his daughter Ella, and she needed dinner tonight. Before we go further, if stories like this still hit you, real struggle, real emotion, make sure you like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Now sit back, because this story stays with you. That morning, Dominic had been awake long before sunrise, not thinking, not planning, just listening to the soft breathing of his daughter in the next room because that sound was the only thing keeping him steady. 3 years ago, Dominic wasn't standing outside dealerships. He was building engines for one of the top racing teams. In America, 12 years from junior technician to chief powertrain engineer, cars he worked on won races, broke records, his name was respected, but then one night everything changed. His wife died, and the next morning his daughter looked at him and asked, "Where's Mom?" And in that moment, Dominic understood that no job, no title, no money was more important than being there for her. So he walked away from everything. For 2 years, he worked small jobs, mechanic work, anything honest. But 9 months ago even, that stopped. Savings ran out, but bills didn't. And now this interview was his last chance. Inside the dealership, everything felt different. Clean floors, perfect lighting, cars worth more than most people's houses. He sat quietly in the waiting area next to people who looked like they already belonged there. Sharp suits, confident faces, while Dominic sat still with his hands folded, waiting. When his turn came, the interview lasted less than 15 minutes. The manager barely looked at his resume, barely listened. "You have technical experience," he said, "but this is luxury sales." Dominic stayed calm and replied, "I can do both, but the decision was already made. We'll be in touch." The words everyone understands. Rejected, Dominic stood up, nodded once, and walked out. But before leaving, something caught his eye. A brand new car on display, the Orion X9. He stepped closer, crouched down, and looked carefully at the front wheel. Something wasn't right. A small detail almost invisible, but to him it stood out immediately. "The brake ventilation bracket, it's installed at the wrong angle," he murmured. Behind him, a technician stopped. "You serious?" Dominic nodded calmly. "It'll wear uneven after a few thousand miles." The technician stared at the car and then at Dominic. But Dominic didn't wait. He left his card at the desk and walked toward the exit. That should have been the end. But then the doors opened and everything changed. The room went quiet. Not loud quiet, but the kind you feel. "She's here," someone whispered. Charlotte Voss, the CEO, walked in calm and focused, not trying to impress anyone, but everyone noticed. Her eyes scanned the showroom and then stopped on Dominic. She picked up his card, looked at it, then at him. "You just interviewed?" "Yes." "How did it go?" "I wasn't the right fit." She studied him for a second, and then asked quietly, "What did you notice about the Orion X9? Dominic didn't hesitate. He explained everything clearly and precisely. No exaggeration. The room went still again. Even the manager said nothing. Charlotte turned to him and said, "Come with me." In the service bay, he showed her exactly what he saw. She listened carefully, not testing him, understanding him. Then she asked one question. "Why did you leave your last job?" Dominic paused and answered honestly, "My wife died. I have a daughter." Silence followed, not awkward, real. "What's her name?" "Ella." Something softened in her expression just slightly. Then she looked at him and made a decision. Minutes later, they walked back to the showroom. The manager stood there trying to regain control. Charlotte didn't raise her voice. Didn't argue, she just said, "I'd like to offer him a position. Not sales, not entry level. Senior Director of Technical Services. The room froze. The same man who had just been rejected was now being offered a leadership role. Dominic didn't react immediately. He thought about one thing only. My daughter gets out at 3:30. That won't be a problem, she said. He looked at her, then nodded. I'll take it. That evening, the same kitchen, the same light, but everything felt different. Dominic stood at the stove making pancakes while Ella sat beside him smiling and talking non-stop. The unpaid bill was still on the table, but this time he picked up a pen and wrote one line under it. Pay Friday. Not a miracle, not a fantasy, just a chance. Sometimes all it takes is one person who actually sees you.